All right, welcome to Monday morning, 6 a.m. We are live for day one of reInvent. I'm Stephen Barr.
I'm Rahul Subramaniam, and super excited to be here.
Yeah, welcome to the early morning reInvent. I think we're the first Monday morning show to be online. So welcome to the reInvent morning stream.
Absolutely. It is 6 a.m. here. We've been up since about 4:30 trying to prep and get everything set up for this show. It's not even sunrise yet. As you can see behind us, hopefully, as the sun comes up, you'll have some amazing views of Vegas right out of this window at the back.
Oh, so how are you feeling?
Slightly jet lagged. Despite being here so many times, I didn't account for the dryness of the air, and so still try to cope with it. But otherwise, good. I'm really excited for this week and looking forward to all the amazing stuff that we're going to do.
It is particularly bracing, that dry. I always forget how much it is. I guess I don't really live in a casino full time, but it is. I went to the Sphere last night. There was an Amazon event there.
Oh wow!
That was. I'm still kind of processing that. Like, it makes IMAX feel like a Game Boy. Like, this was incredible. Like, you can look behind you and above you, and you can see all of this stuff.
It's almost like a 360-degree, all-encompassing view, right?
Yeah, and it just made me. Apparently, it's a 16K camera that has to film this in every direction, and it was an Amazon event. There were lots of folks there. Really enjoyed just running into people, and it really set a fun tone of just cool tech. And I think that we're going to have that for the rest of reInvent. What do you think?
I couldn't agree more. I think, like I've said before, reInvent is all about the people, the networking, and that's what I enjoy the most about being here. Just being able to meet face to face, have all those conversations, and they're all unplanned, and I love that about these conversations here. So looking forward to meeting some amazing people that we have, both from Amazon and customers of Amazon, and AWS in particular. And there are so many amazing experts to interact with, to learn from, and to share your knowledge with as well. So couldn't be more excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Just going back to the history of reInvent. So we are now at year 11, right? It was first launched in 2012.
This might be 12th.
Yeah,
I think this is the 12th year.
12th year. There was the first one had 6,000 attendees.
Correct.
2020 was strange because it was all remote and spread out over a month instead of the traditional week. So yeah, why would someone go to reInvent?
And just for context, this year we are expecting somewhere around 65,000 people. And again, the reason why folks go to reInvent is to network, to learn about all the stuff that's happening. Because in a certain way, we are all in our little bubbles when we are remote, when we are, in our organizations. And this is one place where you can come in and you can share. You can share your learnings, you can share your insights, and learn from an amazing set of people that you would otherwise not get access to. And to have everyone be here in one place over a week, which is plenty of time. Actually, it's not enough time to meet everyone that's here, but it's still enough time to schedule and meet up with some amazing people and learn of amazing stuff that's happening in the entire AWS ecosystem.
And like we talked with Rohini, just reach out to people, right? If you see someone walking by or join a conversation, people will rope you in, or send a message on LinkedIn or Twitter or whatever social media. People are really friendly. Often the hardest spot is finding a meeting space.
That is true.
Peer Talk is good for that if you're meeting with AWS folks. So the Peer Talk Lounge, that is in the Venetian Expo.
Correct.
That's a great thing to check. And then also, if you're not here, we have this live stream. So plan for the stream over the next couple of days. We want to react and review the keynotes. There's several keynotes. Try and cover the announcements. There's so many. I think we would need to be doing this completely full time just to process all the announcements. We'll try and react to the important ones. And then, Yeah, especially where it comes to cost optimization. I think that's going to be a big focus this year, and that's going to be very timely in terms of just the economic circumstance that many companies and individuals find themselves in. I think it's very timely to be talking about doing more with less, with tighter budgets.
I think the fundamental difference between last year's reInvent and this year's reInvent is going to be the fact that last year we were focused on the economic scenario and cost optimization being an imperative just coming out of the COVID setup. This year, everyone is trying to do something different and something new with generative AI, and it's an expense that's orders of magnitude more than what you would typically do with an application, and therefore, in most organizations, this is an unbudgeted cost. So you have to now figure out how to be very, very efficient with your old costs, with your old application deployments and so on, so that you can take those investments and then reapply them to all the new amazing stuff around generative AI and build some new age applications with it.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about with Mike last week. We said, okay, this is a new thing that's come up. We want to use it.
Exactly.
So how do you free up budget? Well, tighten your EC2 spend, tighten your S3 spend, clean up those EBS volumes, whatever it is. And then that could be an immediate source of budget to then pour into Party Rock or Bedrock or whatever you want to do with it. Yeah, I think that's what we're excited about. So let's talk about the keynotes.
Great. So lots of amazing keynotes that are planned out. I think the first one that we have is Peter DeSantis today at 7:30 p.m.
Now, I was listening to his first keynote, and he took that slot because he wanted to be in the same slot as Monday Night Football. So he has the Monday Night Football slot. So there's Peter DeSantis. He's the Senior Vice President of AWS Utility Computing.
Right.
And for context, he had EC2, the original EC2, running as a pile of laptops on his desk.
Yeah, and I actually love that because this conversation, you can expect to hear stuff around the new compute infrastructure, all of the new next generation chips that they're working on. So I'm excited to see what is announced today in terms of the platform, the infrastructure platform that AWS has laid out for everyone to use.
Yeah, last year was all about Nitro, innovations to Nitro. Of course, Graviton. So at that point, the Graviton 3 was just released.
Yeah, the Graviton 3. The Graviton 3 had been released a few months before reInvent, the C7G in particular. And at reInvent, they announced general availability of the C7G. The M7Gs came out a little later in the year, and the R7G as well. So I'm hoping to see potentially the next generation of the Graviton processors.
Yeah, fingers crossed. That would be exciting. It would be an amazing pace of innovation to come out with a new generation of chips. And it's funny with the naming convention, right? So the instance, right? We started with the M1, and so then right now we are on the third generation of Graviton, but it's the seventh generation of EC2 in general. So C7G is Graviton 3, and similarly, M7A would be the AMD's fourth gen. Yeah. So the numbers get a bit confusing, but that's how it maps. So if there were to be a Graviton, it would be a Graviton 4. It would be an 8.
I think they would announce the compute ones first, just going by past trends.
Yeah.
So it'll probably be the C8G if they announce one, and then if they do focus on the memory stuff, then it might be the M8G or the R8G. So we'll see what is announced. I'm excited about it. The other thing that I'm excited about is in terms of progress of the ARM processors, now that we would have 4 data points, if they do announce something new, then it allows us to track a trajectory of where things are headed. If you see some of the performances around all the x86, over 2 decades, they grew like crazy. And now they started kind of plateauing just a tiny bit. We have to see where ARM is headed on that trajectory curve, or on that curve. Yeah.
And I wonder if with the faster iteration on silicon that's possible, that we're going to see more special purpose chiplets within that CPU. So chiplets for video encoding, or I don't know, even chiplets for zipping or unzipping, right? If you're doing compression heavy, if you're a CloudFront node, maybe you can do gzip in hardware. Things like that would be exciting to see.
Correct. And I think the interesting thing that I find about some of the Graviton conversations is they are very server specific. So it'll be interesting to see how they organize their chiplets for very specific server workloads. And that's very different from how, say, an Apple organizes the chiplets for general desktop purpose workloads. So it'll be fascinating to see what they incorporate into the next generation of Graviton processors.
Absolutely. So, all right. So then Peter DeSantis, just to recap, Peter DeSantis keynote, that's going to be Monday, today, 7:30 p.m., the Monday Night Football slot. And we will be covering him with just as much enthusiasm as a football announcer.
Correct.
We'll cover that in our Tuesday morning show. See what new innovations in Nitro and AWS Silicon. Then Tuesday, we have Adam Selipsky. So that's going to be, he's the CEO of Amazon Web Services. That's Tuesday, 8 a.m. to 10:30. So they give him a 2.5-hour block.
Yeah, I mean, AWS does have a ton of stuff to announce. So a 2.5-hour block seems very reasonable. This is the keynote where there's a broad-based discussion about where AWS is headed. The theme for AWS is kind of set in this particular talk. And at the same time, all the major top-tier service announcements are declared and announced on this particular talk. So this is going to be fun. We're going to be looking out for more general, broad-based theme and approach. I'm guessing that the theme is going to be generative AI this year, given everything that's happening, and just looking at the firestorm of announcements, the pre-invent firestorm that has been put out over there. So I'm guessing that we're going to talk a lot about how generative AI is affecting everything across all services, and there are 200 plus services to talk through. So 2.5 hours seems pretty reasonable. There's going to be time to discuss.
I was just adding it up. There's 9.5 total hours of keynote. So that's a lot of room for announcements. So 2.5 for Adam. And then also reaching out to our audience. What do you think? What are you expecting? I see folks in the LinkedIn, in Twitch, and YouTube. So thank you for being here. Please comment in any of the platforms. Let us know what you're looking forward to, what you think's coming. And let's keep track of these predictions, see what comes true, what doesn't. Yeah, please put it in and just say hi in the comments. We really appreciate you being here. We're here for you to be your eyes and ears for reInvent.
Exactly. And if you have questions, please post them. Please send us your comments. We will reach out to the folks at AWS and get you the answers that you want. So let us be your eyes and ears, like Stephen just said, at this show.
And what was that rule? If one person asks it, it means 100 were thinking it.
Correct.
So be that one that asked the question, and we'll help you and the other 99 folks who are wondering that.
Exactly.
Remember Adam's keynote last year? He talked all about explorers. Do you remember that?
Yes.
It was all about, he mentioned the Antarctic explorers.
Pioneers and the explorers, yes.
And try to weave this big theme. I wonder what he's going to do. It's going to be generative AI, so something about brains or...
Possibly. It'll be interesting how he presents the theme around generative AI. Fundamentally, I think the paradigm is shifting, where we are going to use the natural language as the interface to talk to systems, to talk to machines, to talk to whatever applications that we're building. And that paradigm shift, it'll be interesting to see how he presents it.
Yeah.
I know that a lot of folks at AWS are thinking that way already.
So it'll be the overarching, how do they tie this all together, and what's the theme of it that weaves this all together? How are they thinking about it, and how is this going to affect all of the downstream products?
Exactly. And you're already starting to see a lot of that in the pre-event announcements, right? Generative AI being offered as a standard new interface, as part of the console, as part of your application and API, is pretty amazing.
Well, and emblematic of that is Party Rock, right? So
Yes.
if you want to make an application, you can just wire one together with Party Rock. We covered that with Brian Huff.
Correct.
Seems like eternity. It was like a couple of days ago.
Correct.
Covered that with Brian. That was really neat. So Party Rock was announced about a week ago.
Correct. There was actually another announcement, and I was just trying to filter through the firestorm of announcements yesterday. There were two big tranches of announcements that got made. One at around, I think it was about 1 or 1:30 p.m. Pacific, and then the second one, or maybe I was on a flight and I got them late, and then the second one was a little later in the evening. And one of the very interesting announcements was that step functions now have Bedrock as one of the interesting integrations that you can just directly connect into your step functions.
That's cool.
And that's pretty neat, because now in any application that you're building with step functions, all your workflows, you can just have generative AI or any of the Bedrock models be part of your regular flow of automation that you're creating.
Okay, so you can have a Lambda function that, say, produces a piece of text, and then you can, in the step function, hand that text to Bedrock and say get a summarization or key entities or something like that.
Correct.
And then have a next step process those entities or handle that summarization, maybe raise a flag if you're dealing with customer feedback, and you say this is a negative feedback about this certain issue that I'm watching out for.
Correct.
You can have that right.
You can literally do an analysis of whatever content is being generated in real time as part of your flow, and have that be processed as part of your step functions. I love step functions for the way it makes it really easy to stitch together all these amazing services and get a certain outcome. Here, this is a perfect case for, in bringing in these LLM models into your workflow. There's so much comprehension and simplifying and summarization that you can actually do with all these LLMs, which I think there's tons of use cases I can think of to do just that.
Well, another one I was thinking of from the pre-event announcements, and I think this will be a theme, is bringing governance and predictability around generative AI. And so to that end, there's AWS Audit Manager introduces framework for generative AI on Amazon Bedrock. That was announced, when was it? Looking at the announcement, November 8th. I'll put that in the stream. I'll put that in the LinkedIn comments. Here we go. That's an interesting one. It was just announced just a few days ago. And this is how you can have a visibility into generative AI best practices in your account. You can audit your generative AI usage, automate evidence collection. You can track your model usage. You can flag sensitive data. So that's really neat, right? So this idea of roping in this governance structure into generative AI, I think that's going to be a big part of it.
I couldn't agree more. And then I would also expect that there'd be announcements around some of the new models being introduced into Bedrock. I'm hoping to see a new version of Titan, maybe Titan 2 or something like that is what is going to be called, because Titan has kind of been behind the curve against all the other public open source models. But the amazing thing about Bedrock is that it gives you the flexibility to choose the model that works best for you, depending on what modes you're kind of operating it in. So I would expect to see a lot more of the open source models come into Bedrock, and at the same time, a new version of Titan being announced as well.
Well, within the pre-event announcements, we had Llama 2 Chat 12B that just got 13B in Bedrock. I'll put that link in there. That just got announced on the 13th. So that's as an example, a huge chat model that you can just use. This one is from Meta, the Llama series.
So one of the interesting things that's happening in the model creation world is that now you are actually finding a lot of interesting models that are not so heavy, like they're not doing 70 billion. I think that there was a time when 70 billion was the new thing that everyone was trying. But now there are much smaller models, like the Mistral 7 billion one. The Mistral 7B is pretty amazing in what it can actually perform. It doesn't have the knowledge and the breadth, the general knowledge and breadth that you have with the 70 billion model, but the quality of comprehension and the quality of the outcomes that it can generate is actually pretty amazing. And it is on par, if not better, than a lot of the larger models as well. So I think that's where the utility of these models will start increasing, because you're going to start embedding these models into your applications, into your systems, and start using them with lower resource requirements, yet get the same performance out of them.
And so these ones can run at an edge, can run on devices.
Exactly.
And then you can maybe, if that one can't handle it, then farm it out to a larger model that can, but you don't have to do it with every single one of them.
Correct. The future is really going to be multimodal models, where you're going to have a lot of, or at least some mechanism of handling multimodal conversations. And when it comes to things like that, you need simpler models. You need models that are lightweight and use less resources, yet perform just as well, because you have to be able to run them at the edge at some point, right? Can you imagine uploading videos, gigs of videos? Just this morning, we had a situation where there was some asset that was 10 gigs and we can't download it.
Yeah, we'll have the intro. We're on hotel bandwidth, which is it's still limited. We will have to download. I'll run over to the Venetian, where they have the AWS Wi-Fi, which is a lot more powerful. Run over to there, and then get so we'll have the beautiful introduction for tomorrow and all future videos. But that's why we didn't have it today, constrained by bandwidth. But that's a real thing. We're in Las Vegas.
It's still a real thing, and you can't keep uploading gigs of videos to a remote server. You have to be able to do this on the edge, and so lighter models is going to become a necessity.
All right, let's see. Well, what is the let's see. The next one we have is the next keynote. So we're wrapping up with Adam. We're expecting generative AI, governance, and some big theme that shows how they're thinking about that. Next is Swami, Siva Subramaniam.
So Swami is going to be on Wednesday at 8:30 a.m. And I think he's going to deep dive into the generative AI. So everything that we spoke about, he's going to lay it out beautifully for everyone to figure out. He's going to give you the process. He's going to tell you how you should leverage it. He's going to tell you all the tools that are out there that are there to be leveraged. And he's going to give you the roadmap for what's happening at AWS with generative AI. So with Adam's keynote, you're going to get the overview of everything across all services, even including some of the generative AI announcements. But with Swami's keynote, it's going to be doubling down on what generative AI is doing for the world, for different businesses, for different enterprises. And it's going to teach you or tell you how you can leverage that for your own business.
I love how last year's he talked about data being the connective tissue of the organization. And so I'm guessing he's going to build on that analogy, right? So if data is the connective tissue, then generative AI is like, well, what do you do with that data? How do you think about it? How do you get these bigger insights? And then last year, there was also the focus on zero ETL, right? That was a lot of the connecting Redshift and Aurora and all these services where you can have data in one place, move it to another. Generative AI just puts a further strain on that whole process.
I actually think generative AI, instead of putting a strain, I would put it as it actually unlocks a lot of potential out of all of that data, for a simple reason that now the biggest reason to have ETL was that you had to comprehend what data was in each place and how it was structured, how it was organized, and then be able to transform it. Now that whole process of comprehension of the data structure and then transforming it can completely be handled by generative AI.
Actually, that's an interesting point. Okay, so so that you're kind of inverting the way of thinking about it, where rather than saying, okay, now we need even more data, it's saying we can deal with it where it is.
You can deal with it where it is, and you can have generative AI kind of comprehend different data sets just where they are and learn from it and be able to put it all together when they have to answer a question for you.
And I guess that's kind of the natural evolution of things like QuickSight Q, right?
Yes.
Where things back when we were doing analytics, you'd have to say, okay, I need to join this and aggregate this row and filter by this. And now with QuickSight Q, you say, what were my top drivers of sales in Q3 of last year, right? And you can do that. And it's going to figure out how to filter and join and aggregate. And then we're going to see more and more of that at a higher level.
Exactly. I think the definition of data or creating the data catalog, that exercise kind of goes away to a large extent with generative AI. And you can make it a lot more simplified.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so then any other data? Well, I'm looking at some of the list of pre-invent data announcements that we saw. There were. I think we're also going to see a lot of. Looking at S3 now supports S3 object lock on existing buckets. That's an interesting one.
Correct.
So the idea is that you can write something and be sure that it never gets modified. Yeah. Let's see. There's the CloudFront key value.
I think that's more for a case where when you have one writer and multiple readers. So while you're writing, you basically put a lock on it, so that others are not reading this latest version of the data till it's completely written up. Because sometimes you're writing tons and tons of data and you don't want the incomplete version. So you create the right lock, just like you would do on a file system lock. So that way, whoever's writing basically gets to finish writing, and then you can decide when it becomes available to everyone else. And no one else can write to that file till that writing is complete.
Yeah. So I'm guessing we're going to see some more conveniences about dealing with generative AI data. So we saw support for PG Vector just got announced in Amazon.
I thought PG Vector was already there. So AWS announced PG Vector support. I think it's now more broadly available, but it was probably in preview.
Yeah. Okay.
PG Vector support has been there for about 4 months or so. So so I think now it's more broadly available. So Vector Store is at your disposal right away. Let's see. Were there other announcements?
Let's see, other pre-invent data announcements. Well, there was the QuickSight runtime for filtering embedded dashboards and visuals. That's just going to be really helpful in general, right? We use QuickSight quite extensively within CloudFix, and so just the more. Well, we had a great discussion about that a couple of days ago, where we're talking about we can build on QuickSight. We're not going to, speaking of using tooling that's out there, we're not going to build our own visualization framework.
Exactly. Anymore. For those of you who haven't checked out our live stream that we did on, I'm losing track of time. Did we do that on Friday?
No, that was just the discussion. That will be published soon, right? That was
all right. We recorded it, and that will be published.
That is on the virtual cutting room floor as we speak. We had a great conversation with Joe's Knuckle, QuickSight, talking about how we use QuickSight within CloudFix because we didn't want to build a visualization platform on our own when AWS had one. Well, AWS was in the process of developing one at the time. So we'll post that link when that's ready. But that was a really fun conversation. So with this announcement, QuickSight now supports, you can filter embedded dashboards and visuals. So just further, there's less temptation than ever. Like, not that there was a big temptation for either of us, but less temptation than ever to build your own visualization solution.
Makes absolutely no sense to do that.
Let's see, Glue launches its native connectivity to more databases. I think there'll be more continuation of this connect everything together in Swami's keynote.
Yeah. Okay, what's next? The next keynote?
Ruba Borno.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that keynote.
So she's a relative newcomer to the bunch, right? So this will be her second keynote, and she's been at AWS. I think when she gave her keynote last year, it was just at her 1-year anniversary.
Correct.
She's in charge of partnerships, so that will be hers. She's going to bring on lots and lots of people, and it's exciting to see how AWS is enabling other people to succeed. And I think the theme of her is basically like a rising tide is going to help everybody. AWS doesn't want to take on every single challenge, right? And that's why the partners are there.
Correct.
That's why we're there, right? We want to help take on the challenge of cost optimization. There's other partners to do other things. So I think we're going to see more continuing investment in the partner network.
I agree.
Actually, there's interesting, if you are a partner and you're watching this, there's a great page. I'll post a link to LinkedIn called the Partner Experience. I'll put this in there. That's a filtered set of activities, of things to do, parties to go to that are all catered towards the partner experience. There's also the AWS Partner Network blog, which is really useful. I'll post a link to that here in the LinkedIn chat as well. So have a look at the Partner Network blog. I think that's going to be we're going to see a big showcase of lots of different people, lots of different partners, and see how AWS is enabling them.
I actually agree. And I think this is a great place to learn about all the new stuff and innovative ways in which people are leveraging the AWS services and build on top of them. Again, the key thing, like we just talked about QuickSight, don't build something that someone else is already building. Your application's USP has to be something that's unique to your organization or your needs. And for most of it, I'd say about 90% of what you need to build, the foundations of it are 90% of that particular application that's already been built and done by someone else. So it's a great opportunity to learn from others. It's a great opportunity to, see what other people are doing, and then piggyback on that and go do something else on top of it, so that you're adding more value to whatever you're building.
For sure. I just wanted to take a moment. Look at our scenery has changed here. We've got the huge full moon, the Vegas mountains. It's really hard to get the lighting right through a window, but I'm looking at the studio monitor. This is a pretty neat setup that we have here. There's the Treasure Island in the background. Vegas is such a unique place, isn't it?
It is. It absolutely is. And I love the side of. Look at the side of the moon. I don't know if we can see that on the. Yeah,
there it is.
There. If I
right
move
there.
This way, that side of the moon is spectacular. It's a full moon right over the mountains, and it's an absolutely spectacular sight.
Yeah, we're streaming in 1080p, but even that is not going to capture how cool this is. Yeah. So if you're here, get up early tomorrow morning, have a good, get some fresh air outside, and take a look at the moon, and then tune into our live stream.
Absolutely,
it's really, really quite striking.
Okay.
All right. Finally, we've got Werner's keynote. We will also be on Wednesday, and we will be covering that on. Oh no, sorry.
It's on Thursday, right?
This is on Thursday.
It's on Thursday.
So we will be talking about that at the wrap-up live stream Thursday afternoon.
Correct. And so that Werner's keynote starts at 8:30 a.m.
Yeah.
And the thing I love about Werner's keynote is it's very, very developer-focused. Now, he gives you all the building blocks that you need as a developer to think about building a cloud-native application on AWS. All the things that you need to consider, the methodology of building something for the cloud is very, very different. If you remember last year, it was all about the events. And he did that pre-talk video, which talked about what the fundamental differences between, single stream or single channel or sequential events is, and what event-based development looks like.
Yeah, so if you hadn't seen this, go look at this on YouTube. So basically, he did a parody of the Matrix, but the world that he was entering was where the world was synchronous.
Yes,
synchronous. He goes into a cafe. Yeah, it was synchronous and therefore sequential. He goes into a cafe. He orders fries, and he sees the person deep frying one French fry, moving it to the bowl, deep frying another French fry, moving it to the bowl. And then he was like, this world is asynchronous and event-driven, and we should be able to have the tools to think about computation in the same way.
Correct. And he put EventBridge at the center of everything during last year's keynote and talked about how developers should be leveraging that to build their applications. I would love to see, I'm guessing that this year, it's again going to be very generative AI focused and giving the developers a roadmap for how they should be thinking about all the generative AI tools that are out there in the AWS ecosystem and building on top of that. So very, very exciting to see Werner's keynote as well.
And I'm looking forward to seeing the creative, the humorous side. He has some funny ideas. He also had this really neat series that he's been working on. It's a YouTube show where he goes and interviews different companies who are using AWS. I remember I watched one. There's a company that's building out autonomous trucks.
Yeah.
And it was showing how they were using AWS, like edge networking, edge computing, and almost like you said, there's a huge amount of compute that happens on the vehicle, right? Because there's minimal latency, right? You can't make a request of should I move lanes or not, and then have that go over HTTP. But for their long distance cameras and for their route planning and decision making, that all goes to the cloud.
Right.
Their analytics, all that stuff. and it's this hybrid of some stuff is local, some stuff is cloud.
Correct.
It was
and
really
even the
to see
stuff
it.
that's local, it's actually managed on the AWS plane. So you have the entire AWS IoT ecosystem, and then you also have services like Lookout. There's one more for video, which I'm missing right now, which basically allows you to manage an entire stream of cameras, and there's a local device which will do all the encoding and decoding and apply models directly. But you can manage all of that within the AWS ecosystem and push it out to all the remote edges. So there's tons of stuff in this ecosystem for folks to leverage, and it'd be interesting to see the new set of kind of guidelines and instructions or AWS best practices that are going to be discussed on Werner's show, on Werner's keynote.
So we'll be talking about that Thursday afternoon. I wanted to highlight Thursday afternoon. We have a special live stream coming up Thursday afternoon.
Correct.
So we have Jeff Barr, he'll be joining us early in the stream. Lorenzo Winfrey, Rick Ox,
and
Yuri Picardio, and also Rick is bringing Leishan Feng.
Awesome.
So we'll have a really great set of discussion. It's going to be like a talk show. There's going to be some overlap. We're going to move these couches in this room to have this, big long talk show set up. The Win has particularly heavy couches, but we are going to move them anyway to provide an awesome talk show like experience. We'll get to talk to all these folks who are spread out throughout the AWS ecosystem. Jeff has this great high level view, and then we'll be talking to Rick about the cost optimization,
compute optimizer, all of that stuff. And Yuri is one of the co-creators of the Cloud Intelligence Dashboard and Kudos Dashboard in particular. So it'll be fascinating to see. They've had some amazing announcements. They just announced version 5 of the dashboard. And now yesterday they announced that the dashboard is now available as part of Kerr and part of your cost and usage stuff in the dashboard itself. On the console. So there's going to be tons of stuff to talk through. Really, really excited. And if there are other folks that you would love to have on the show and speak to and get questions answered, let us know. We will try and line up as many as we possibly can for that particular event.
Yeah, absolutely. Please, any topics that you're interested in, please submit that. Go to the CloudFix LinkedIn or YouTube. You can already post comments to the event, and so we'll of course review all the comments. And if you have questions for any of the people who are there, or just want to say hello, please let us know, and we will pass those on. Let's see. There were a huge amount. Speaking of cost optimization, and Rick's right, we're going to cover. There's going to be a whole week of announcements, but a bunch of things just happened yesterday.
Correct. There are so many new announcements. And this is just from yesterday. So the first one is, I think the biggest one was CloudWatch has a new lower cost tier, which is amazing because I'd say 95 to 98% of CloudWatch logs are never looked at. And we first put them in the most expensive tier in the hope that we might need it or in the expectation that we might need it, but it just never gets used. So it's amazing that there's now a lower cost tier where the cost of ingestion is also lower. So that would be amazing. I think that should just be the default. And you pay whatever penalty for the one odd time that you actually need to go into the data and pull it out. So there's always a trade-off of cost of storage and ingestion versus the latency of being able to pull it and the cost of pulling out from a low cost tier. I think it's going to be totally worth it for a lot of organizations that rarely use it, but absolutely need to have all those logs in place for their analysis.
So is this manually managed, or how is this? Is this an intelligent tiering type of thing, or is this manually managed?
So I think this is not an intelligent tiering kind of setup in my belief. I need to double check on that.
Yeah, I'm reading the announcement right now.
I think it's just a new tier that you set up for your logs.
Yeah.
When you get started.
Yeah, a new log class.
Yeah, it's a new log class. So you should always default to, my belief is you should default to this as the default log class, specifically for data that you're going to touch occasionally or that need to be just audited once in a while. And then for stuff that you're going to use for real-time analysis, you might want to use the standard tier.
I like this. It says best suited for logs that require infrequent querying for forensic analysis.
Correct.
So this isn't your everyday, I'm interested in traffic for analytics that you're doing on a repeated basis. This is for, like it says, forensics, right?
I'll give you a simple example. If you're doing Compute Optimizer and you're doing all of your metrics on your EC2 instances, keep that in the standard tier. But for example, all of your Lambda logs or your Docker or your EKS, ECS, all of the logging, the application logging that happens that also goes to CloudWatch, put that in in this new tier.
Because ideally you wouldn't be there unless you had a specific ad hoc question to answer.
Exactly.
All right, so CloudWatch logs.
Then the next one is EFS has the new archive tier.
So this brings it up to 3. So there's single region and multi-AZ.
Correct.
But within those, there was standard and infrequent, and now there is archive.
So you can take EFS volumes and then just archive them, and that happens a lot. Again, there are tiers where you rarely access these, data, and that's an amazing new tier to have. So EFS has an intelligent tiering. I don't know whether this one yet. Again, we've not had the time to digest all the stuff with all the travel and things. So we'll get you more details soon. But it's great to have more tiers that you can kind of move your data to. It can make just another simple way to save money.
We have a great blog post on that. So if you look for CloudFix EFS intelligent tiering, it's essentially a lifecycle policy, right? Correct. So it's 30 days. So now we can have a more complicated lifecycle policy that will take advantage of the archive class. Correct. And then, that's really useful. And it's similar trajectory as what S3 followed. First have the S3 infrequent access, and then archive, and maybe there's going to be an EFS glacier.
Exactly. Hopefully. Okay, and then I have 2 more. The first one is the Compute Optimizer customizable recommendations.
Yeah, putting the link to the chat right there.
So that one is new and pretty amazing. So one of the things that happens is that if you've watched our show with Rick Cox, he explains how Compute Optimizer works, where they look for the best recommendation. In fact, they do 3 recommendations for every instance. The first one is a very conservative estimate or a very conservative recommendation. The one is an aggressive recommendation. The third one is a graviton recommendation. Now, one of the things that is happening as customers were trying to use it was to say, hey, we want to limit ourselves to a certain class of instance types and instance families. And so can you make sure that you give us the best options within those instance types and instance families? And so now Compute Optimizer supports that. You can say, we'd like to stay within this set of instance types and families and give us the best recommendation there, which is awesome. So now you can get the best of what you really want to try out and what you're comfortable with. And so you can get these customizable recommendations out of Compute Optimizer.
So particularly it says CPU headroom and threshold adjustments. So let's see, CPU headroom.
Right. So you want to say, I want to make sure that this is also one of the major parts of this optimization. If you wanted to make sure that you always left 40% headroom on your instances, so no matter what you do, even if you downsize, you want 40% headroom on memory and 40% headroom on CPU, you can customize that and you can set that up as part of the Compute Optimizer's parameters.
So I guess I'm trying to figure out, I think this is a good question for Rick that I'm going to ask him, is how do we differentiate that from just the risk? Because I thought that headroom was built into risk of Compute Optimizer recommendations.
Right. So the headroom is built on risk of what your trends are over the last 14 days, or if you have the extended metrics, then you can get up to nearly 90 to 60 days extra. So that's about 80, about 75 days, roughly, okay. Right? But sometimes you don't want to optimize just on what you've seen over the last 14 days. You want to just have a policy that says, I always want to keep 30% headroom. And so how do you do that? Just to be safe. So for example, if you were heading into Thanksgiving last weekend, you wouldn't want to use the Compute Optimizer to look at your previous 14 days of data to figure out how much headroom you need, because you want to be able to grow very quickly.
Yeah.
On Black Friday.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so if you want to say you want to use Compute Optimizer, but you also want to have this guaranteed, right? You don't want to be abstract.
Guaranteed buffer.
Okay, yes. Guaranteed buffer. I like that a lot. Wow. Okay. A 32-day look back.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to quiz Rick about this and really understand, what drove the creation of this. What are the use cases that we're not thinking of?
Correct.
And yeah, how to use this. It's in all regions that have Compute Optimizer. I put the link in the description.
Great.
Finally is the cost optimization hub. So this is brand new announcement. All right, let's put this. I'm putting the link here in the description. AWS Cost Optimization Hub.
Right. So this is a place where you can manage all of your AWS recommendations and figure out how you want to prioritize them, which ones you want to work on. All of that stuff kind of is brought in. So right now, your entire cost exercise is a very fragmented exercise because you've got your Cost Explorer, which is a simple way of looking at all of your billing. Then you have Kerr, where the data sits in S3, and then you have Athena, and then you may have QuickSight and other kind of dashboards or other tools that you're using to actually slice and dice the data. Then you have other tools to basically do cost allocation. Then you've got your security hub for all the security stuff, but you've also got, I'm trying to remember the service for all the other, actually there wasn't one for cost incidents, but you've got places where you go and take action. Now the new hub basically brings all of those insights into one place, and you can stack rank all those recommendations. You can decide which ones you want to work on and start taking them off. So it becomes one place, one dashboard for you to go look at for all of your insights.
This is going to be a very, very big thing.
And it is.
Yeah. I'm thinking, wow, we need to update our slides. We are, speaking of slides, Rahul and I, we are talking. We have a really fun talk coming up on Wednesday, 11:30, where we're doing the cost optimization spectacular.
Correct.
It's going to have some really cheesy acting in it. I don't think either of us are going to win an award for acting, but there'll be some good advice with Steph and Darko. It's going to be really fun.
And you got amazing experts in Steph Gooch and Darko Mazarosh. This is going to be an absolutely fun thing. If you want to learn more about cost optimization and some of the best practices, we try and present that in a very fun, light way. Given that there are going to be a lot of very serious talks, we thought we'd give it a lighter dimension to it. And then I have a talk later on Wednesday.
Yes.
At 2. Hold on, let me just pull up my calendar. I'm still struggling to wrap my head around all the time. So I am going to be speaking at 2:30 p.m. at the Venetian. And so come and attend that. I'm going to be talking about how or what we've learned from saving tons of money on AWS and what we've learned from all the different usages that customers have seen with their AWS spend and cost optimization efforts. So I'm going to share a lot of our learning in that particular conversation. So please come by and feel free to ask questions. I'm going to try and make it as interactive as we possibly can.
So do you know the session code that is?
Let me bring that up.
It's going to be COP something.
Correct. It's COP 218S.
218S. Okay, and then our other session is COP 219S. So
correct.
Easy enough. I'll put that in the comments right now. Wanted to just again thank the audience for being here. And see, do you have any questions or comments, or just say hello if you're in the chat? I'd love to hear from you. Lydia says that view looks awesome. It really is. It's
I can't get enough of this view. It's pretty amazing. And I hope I'm not blocking people's view. Oh,
no,
there's
looking good.
Sunrise. Yeah. But it's absolutely amazing out here. If you are here in Vegas, I think there are folks who do a morning run. There's a big community that gets together to do the morning runs together. So if you're already here, find out about that. You can post on a bunch of the regular forums, and folks will tell you when and where they're running together. That's a fun activity to do. What else is interesting at reInvent?
That is a great question. Well, there's actually, I'll give a shout out to a friend, Dave Shepard, with conference parties, conferenceparties.com. Go check out conferenceparties.com. There's a lot of different parties happening at reInvent.
Correct.
So figure out who you want to network with. Wednesday tends to be very, very busy. So, it's still early. Make your plans for who you want to talk to. I'm looking forward to Lorenzo is hosting a spot demo, I think it was called the Spot Arcade.
Okay.
I saw this on LinkedIn, and I want to figure out what this is about. So I want to go swing by that. Get ready for the talk.
Correct. Walk by the expo floor. The expo floor is an amazing place to meet people, to meet all the amazing partners at AWS, and find out what interesting stuff they're doing. We are going to be at the CloudFix booth,
1529
at the expo. So come by there, come speak to us. We have some amazing folks. And then there are a lot of other partners over there as well. Use the time to go explore, figure out what other people are doing, and share your insights and learn from them as well.
Yeah. What's your plan for the day?
I have an absolutely packed calendar. It's hard for me to parse through my calendar right now, but lots of meetings, lots of networking that we've already kind of set up in up front. We are going to be prepping for some of our talks also over the next 2 days, but just tons of amazing conversations that are lined up that I'm really, really looking forward to.
Awesome. Well, it is almost 7 a.m. We need to get started with the next 13 hours of the day.
Correct.
Thank you for being here. Thanks for joining us. And we will be here tomorrow. We're going to be watching tonight the Peter DeSantis keynote. And if you are out there, you can stream that. You go to AWS, the AWS reInvent page. You can stream that and you can watch it live. And then we will be doing our post keynote breakdown tomorrow morning and talking about, see if our predictions came true for Peter. And then, and then Adam will be right after that. So 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. is us, have a little break, and then Adam at 8.
Correct. So don't miss our show every morning, 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. And specifically on Thursday, what time are we doing our wrap-up?
Yeah, we have the wrap-up live stream that is at 4 o'clock p.m. to 5:30 p.m. Follow the CloudFix page on LinkedIn or YouTube, whatever platform you're on. The events are already there.
Correct.
So just hit the notification button so you can see what's happening.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, that's it for today. Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate you being here.
Thanks, everyone. Look forward to seeing you on the Explore floor or anywhere else in Vegas while you're here. We'll see you tomorrow.
All right. Bye-bye.